Nobody expected this moment to arrive. Not now, not like this. For a long time, the conversation around Courtland Sutton was quiet, almost forgotten, as if his story had already been written and sealed. Many believed his peak had passed, many stopped watching closely. But while the noise faded, something else was happening in silence. Small changes, quiet adjustments, and then, suddenly, the numbers shifted, the performances spoke, and the same name people had moved on from was back in headlines again. The question now is not whether Courtland Sutton still belongs here. The question is why everyone is talking about him again, and what they missed while they weren't paying attention. At first glance, the story of Courtland Sutton looks like another tale of professional success built on talent and opportunity. But when you slow down and examine the details, a more complex narrative begins to emerge. It is a story shaped by discipline, setbacks, timing, and moments when expectations collided with reality. Today, Courtland Sutton is once again at the center of public discussion, not because of a single highlight or headline, but because his career has reached a turning point that forces people to reassess who he is and what his future may hold. This documentary explores the full journey of Courtland Sutton, from his early life to his rise into professional visibility, from moments of promise to periods of uncertainty, and finally to the recent developments that have pushed his name back into widespread conversation. It is a close look at how careers evolve, how narratives change over time, and why certain moments suddenly matter more than others. The early life of Courtland Sutton began far from the bright lights of professional stadiums and national media attention. Raised in an environment that valued structure and responsibility, he learned early on that progress came through consistency rather than shortcuts. Family played a central role in shaping his outlook, emphasizing accountability and long-term thinking. These early lessons quietly influenced how he approached challenges later in life, even when external pressure increased. As a child, Courtland Sutton showed an interest in sports that went beyond casual participation. Physical ability was noticeable, but what stood out more was his willingness to repeat drills, refine technique, and listen carefully to instruction. Coaches began to recognize not just raw talent, but a mindset suited for growth. This combination allowed him to steadily improve while others around him plateaued. During his education years, athletics became more than an extracurricular activity. School provided structure, but sports offered direction. Courtland Sutton balanced academic responsibilities with a demanding training schedule, learning how to manage time and expectations. This period was critical because it introduced him to competitive environments where performance was constantly evaluated. Success was never guaranteed, and mistakes carried visible consequences. As his abilities developed, attention followed. Recruitment interest began to build, and with it came higher expectations. This phase marked the transition from potential to possibility. However, it also introduced pressure. Courtland Sutton was no longer simply improving for personal satisfaction, he was now performing under scrutiny. The ability to adapt mentally became just as important as physical preparation. The beginning of Courtland Sutton's professional career did not arrive overnight. It was the result of years of steady progression, evaluation, and adjustment. Entry into the professional level exposed him to a faster pace and more complex systems. Early appearances showed promise, but also revealed areas that needed refinement. Learning curves were steep, and competition was constant. Visibility grew as opportunities expanded. With each appearance, Courtland Sutton demonstrated reliability and a capacity to contribute under pressure. Recognition followed, not in the form of instant stardom, but through respect earned within professional circles. Analysts and observers began to see him as a dependable presence rather than a temporary prospect. Major achievements soon became part of his profile. Consistent performance, strong physical execution, and situational awareness defined his contributions. These accomplishments helped solidify his position and justified the confidence placed in him by decision-makers. For a period, momentum seemed firmly on his side. However, no career unfolds without challenges.
Courtland Sutton faced setbacks that tested both physical resilience and mental focus. Injuries, system changes, and shifting team dynamics created uncertainty. There were stretches where production declined and questions emerged about long-term role and impact. These moments did not erase prior success, but they complicated the narrative. Criticism became more noticeable during these periods. External voices debated whether expectations had been too high or whether circumstances had limited performance. Internally, adjustments were required. Recovery, adaptation, and patience became central themes. This phase marked a crucial point where careers often diverge, either stabilizing or fading from prominence. What makes the current moment particularly significant is why Courtland Sutton is trending right now. This resurgence in attention is not driven by a single play or isolated event, but by a convergence of factors that have gradually built momentum. Recent performances have shown a renewed level of effectiveness that contrasts with earlier uncertainty. Efficiency, consistency, and situational impact have improved in ways that are measurable and visible. The trend began quietly. Early signs appeared in games where Courtland Sutton demonstrated sharper execution and stronger integration within the system. These performances did not immediately dominate headlines, but analysts began to note the change. As weeks progressed, patterns became clearer. Production increased, reliability returned, and influence on outcomes became harder to ignore. Public discussion intensified when media coverage shifted tone. Commentary moved from cautious optimism to analytical reassessment. Questions changed from whether Courtland Sutton could return to form to how sustainable this level of performance might be. This shift matters because it reframes his position within the broader professional landscape. Another factor driving the trend is timing. The current phase of his career aligns with broader conversations about roster construction, leadership, and long-term planning. As teams evaluate future direction, individual performances carry added weight. Courtland Sutton's recent contributions intersect directly with these evaluations, amplifying their significance. Social media and digital platforms further accelerated the trend. Clips, statistical breakdowns, and discussion threads circulated rapidly, exposing a wider audience to the renewed narrative. This exposure created a feedback loop, where attention fueled analysis and analysis fueled more attention. Importantly, this did not happen earlier because the evidence was not yet consistent enough to support a broader conclusion. Why this trend matters is tied to legacy and opportunity. For Courtland Sutton, the current moment represents a chance to redefine how his career is viewed. It suggests resilience rather than decline, adaptation rather than stagnation. In a field where perception often shapes opportunity, this shift carries tangible consequences. Media reaction has reflected this reassessment. Coverage has become more balanced and detailed, focusing on context rather than isolated outcomes. Analysts acknowledge both past struggles and current progress, creating a more nuanced picture. Public reaction mirrors this tone, with discussions emphasizing growth and potential rather than disappointment. At present, Courtland Sutton occupies a position of renewed relevance. He is no longer defined solely by early promise or mid-career challenges, but by the ability to respond to change. Future possibilities remain open, shaped by performance sustainability, health, and strategic decisions beyond his control. In the long term, the impact of Courtland Sutton's career will likely be measured by adaptability. His journey illustrates how professional paths are rarely linear and how persistence can alter narratives. The legacy forming now is one of adjustment and endurance within a demanding environment. As this chapter continues to unfold, one thing is clear: the conversation surrounding Courtland Sutton is no longer about what was lost, but about what may still be achieved. If you found this analysis valuable and want more in-depth documentary stories like this, subscribe to the channel and stay with us for the next chapter.